Liber, Null, and Psychonaut by Peter J. Carroll. Magic. Success in this part of the syllabus is dependent on some degree of mastery of the magical trances and metamorphosis This magical instruction involves three techniques: ritual, sigils, and dreaming. In addition, the magician should make himself familiar with at least one system of divination: cards, crystal gazing, ruin sticks, pendulum, or divining rod. The methods are endless, with all techniques aimed to silence the mind and let inspiration provide some sort of answer. Whatever symbolic system or instruments are used, they act only to provide a receptacle or amplifier for inner abilities. No divinatory system should involve too much randomness. Astrology is not recommended. Ritual is a combination of the use of talismanic weapons, gesture, visualized sigils, word spells, and magical trance. Before proceeding with sigils or dreaming, it is essential to develop an effective banishing ritual. A well-constructed banishing ritual has the following effects. It prepares the magician more rapidly for magical concentration than any of the trance exercises alone. It enables the magician to resist obsession if problems are encountered with dream experiences or with sigils becoming conscious. It also protects the magician from any hostile occult influences which may assail him. To develop a banishing ritual, first acquire a magical weapon: a sword, a dagger, a wand, or perhaps a large ring. The instrument should be something which is impressive to the mind and should also represent the aspirations of the magician. The advantages of hand forging one's own instruments, or discovering them in some strange way, cannot be overemphasized. The banishing ritual should contain the following elements as a minimum. First, the magician describes a barrier about himself with the magical weapon. The barrier is also strongly visualized. Three-dimensional figures are preferable. See Figure 1 on page 20. Second, the magician focuses his will on a visualized image. For example, the image of the magical weapon, or his own imaginary third eye, or perhaps a ball of light inside his own head. A sound concentration may additionally or alternatively be used. Figure 1. Different forms of three-dimensional barriers that the magician can create using the magical weapon. Third, the barrier is reinforced with power symbols drawn with the magical weapon. The traditional 5-pointed star or pentagram can be used, or the 8-pointed star of chaos, or any other form. Words of power may also be used. Fourth, the magician aspires to the infinite void by a brief but determined effort to stop thinking. The magician may require something which he is unable to obtain through the normal channels. It is sometimes possible to bring about the required coincidence by the direct intervention of the will, provided that this does not put too great a strain on the universe. The mere act of wanting is rarely effective, as the will becomes involved in a dialogue with the mind. This dilutes magical ability in many ways. The desire becomes part of the ego complex. The mind becomes anxious of failure. The will not to fulfill desire arises to reduce fear of failure. Soon the original desire is a mass of conflicting ideas. Often the wished-for result arises only when it has been forgotten. This last fact is the key to sigils and most forms of magic spell. Sigils work because they stimulate the will to work subconsciously, bypassing The mind. There are three parts to the operation of a sigil. The sigil is constructed. The sigil is lost to the mind. The sigil is charged. In constructing a sigil, the aim is to produce a glyph of desire, stylized, so as to not immediately suggest the desire. It is not necessary to use complex symbol systems. Figure 2 shows how sigils may be constructed from words, from images, and from sounds. The subject matter of these spells is arbitrary and not recommended. To successfully lose a sigil, both the sigil form and the associated desire must be banished from normal waking consciousness. The magician strives against any manifestation of either by a forceful turning of his attention to the other matters. Sometimes the sigil may be burnt, buried, or cast into an ocean. It is possible to lose a word spell by constant repetition, as this eventually empties the mind of associated desire. The sigil is charged at moments when the mind has achieved quiescence through magical trance, or when high emotionality paralyzes its normal functioning. At these times, the sigil is concentrated upon, either as a mental image or mantra, or as a drawn form. Some of the times when sigils may be charged are as follows. During magical trance, at the moment of orgasm or great elation, at times of great fear, anger, or embarrassment, or at times when intense frustration or disappointment arises. The desire is sacrificed, forgotten, and the sigil is concentrated on instead. After holding the sigil in the mind for as long as possible, it is wise to banish it by evoking laughter. A record should be kept of all work with sigils, but not in such a way to cause conscious deliberation over the sigilized desire. Back to figure 2. A. Word method. I wish to obtain the Necronomicon. Eliminate repeated letters. Letters rearranged to give pictorial sigil. B. Pictorial method. To restrain adversary. Finish sigil. C. Mantrical spell method. Rearrange. Finish mantra. Figure 2. Creating a sigil by A. The word method, B. The pictorial method, and C. The mantrical method.